Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're in the world. This is your host, Ameya Pradhan, for today's talk show. I welcome all of you on this PSAI Talk Show. Thank you for being live with us here on the PSAI Talk Show. It's my pleasure today to have Sagar Amlani, our expert on productive mindset, with us today. But before I introduce Sagar, I really want to talk about the vision of PSAI. Our vision is to be the number one association for professional speakers in India, and we really want that vision to be, manifested really, really soon. So, what's special about today? Special about today is our speaker with us, and his name is Sagar Amlani. And what does Sagar do? Let's hear about him. He's a global speaker, inspired over 22,000 lives in India, UK, Russia, and Dubai, and Australia and Singapore. Sorry, I missed on that, Sagar. A professional member of APSS, um, past excom for 2 terms at PSAI, president of Hyderabad Chapter, and chair of PSS Summit in 2020. Author of 2 books, one of them endorsed by none other than Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, the world's number one executive coach, and the second book is an Amazon India bestseller. He has been featured in several books and podcasts worldwide, awarded as World as a Global Indian in 2021. Sagar has recently moved to Vadodara after a stint in leadership positions in Hyderabad. He served there for about 2 years as a vice president, where he worked with Hyundai, Kia, Renault, Nissan, Volkswagen, TVS, Royal Enfield. Man, these are all the brands I wish to own, Sagar. So I should reach out to you for some discounts. And many more for various projects for automotive upholstery. He's a founder of Zapro Consultants, working with family owned businesses to build an autonomous work culture. He believes in process driven culture and act as a catalyst to build a productive mindset for the team. As a LinkedIn commended profile of 2019-2020, he has worked with over 150 plus leaders and CXOs professionals to build their ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our my co-host, and I would like to call him the productive mindset expert, Sagar Amlani. Hey Sagar, good evening to you. How are you doing, man, today?
Thank you so much for inviting me on the show, and it's always a pleasure to participate in PSAI activities because that's something which started my journey in professional speaking and coming back to home and enjoying the evening with you. It's going to be fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being with us, Sagar. So let's get started. So we want us to know, all of us want to know, what is Sagar? You know, what is Sagar as a person? Before we come to you as a speaker and your journey, just quickly tell us about you as a person, Sagar.
Well, as a person, I can just say very simple thing, a human being with a lot of empathy and compassion. And that's what makes us all as a speaker because when we speak from our heart, we have a lot of compassion and full of empathy. And life has all been about learning and, adversities and turning them into opportunities. So yeah, that's about me.
Super. And what really inspired you to become a speaker, Sagar?
What inspired me? I think I remember being in university and wanted to get into the limelight. And that's when I ended up enrolling my name to be one of the speaker to present a technical paper because being in engineering, the only thing that you can get an opportunity is to present a technical paper. And that is when I discovered that stage is something that I love. I love the limelight. I love to be in the spotlight and I enjoy interacting with people. I love giving back to the society, uh, sharing from my observations, noting down the experiences that I've done. And that is when I discovered my love for speaking. But professional speaking, the credit goes 100% to Nikhil Chaudhary, who was the president at that time in PSAI, and Jankar. So they both actually pulled me to one of their evening event that happens as a PSAI meetup physically before COVID. And they said you should actually join. And that's where I learned you can actually earn by speaking. So that's how I got into the journey of a professional speaker. Kudos to Nikhil and Jankar.
Superb. So, just expressing that gratitude to Nikhil and Jankar, such a wonderful gesture of yours, Sagar. So, when you started speaking, I'm sure, like some of us, I'm fairly new in the system, right? I've been part of PSAI only for about a year and more now. What are the key challenges you faced when you started your career as a professional speaker? And we'd be really interested in knowing how you overcame that as well.
Okay. So the most interesting challenge that everybody faces is where do I start? Because it's actually very simple. You get into professional speaking, you start portraying yourself, you start meeting people, but then you don't have experience about how to approach event organizers, how to actually quote your fees, how to have collaterals like media kit, website, one pager, speaker reel, and the list goes on. So the point here when you have is the first key challenge is where to start. It's a world full of overwhelming technicalities that a speaker has to learn when it comes to speaking. It's not only just speaking in the right way, but it's also the right diction, the right pauses, facial expressions, and so on and so forth. So many things, but to start with, it's where to start in terms of technical requirements, in terms of media kit, in terms of one pager, in terms of speaker reel. Second important thing comes is the practical experience. It's like you come out of college, you want to go for a job, and people say, no, we are not looking for freshers and we are looking for experienced people. And you only get experience when you actually take on a job. So practical experience on speaking becomes a big key challenge. Third becomes a practice ground. Where do you get experience? Where do you practice? And that is when a community like PSAI helps you. PSAI gives you that platform where you can actually meet, learn, network with the giants of speaking industry. PSAI is that ground that made me experiment my things, come out of my issues, overcome the challenges, and last but not the least, build credibility. Again, an association like PSAI, which is Professional Speakers Association of India, also gives you credibility being a part of it. Similarly, being a part of APSS. So these were the key challenges, and this is how I overcome them by learning with the people in the community. Now, PSAI as a community taught me how a website should be, what a one pager should be, what a speaker reel should be. Not only helped, but there were people like Praveen Shekhar, Kiruba, Harish Kumar, Sangeeta, and I can go on the list where these people actually handholded me to create all this. Srijata, for that matter, Bharti Nayak. I mean, it's an endless list that I can go on for the people who have helped me throughout the journey in PSI. Brigadier Sushil Bhasin has been one of the light bearers for me to connect with people in website, people in the technical email list, and all that. So yeah, the list goes on.
So awesome to hear this. And those who are aspiring to be really good professional speakers, Sagar just shared the secret sauce, I would say. Uh, all those who remember Kung Fu Panda and wanting to know what the secret sauce for his success was, this is the secret sauce for being a really good speaker. So those who have made those wonderful notes, do make sure that you create those show reels, have a professional speaking website. There's so much that you just shared with us, Sagar. Thank you so much for that. So
And
let's
if you don't have anything, join PSAI and you get everything with the speakers and with the experts there.
absolutely, that's absolutely the key thing, right? So let's quickly touch upon, you spoke about experience and how PSAI actually was this place where you gained that experience. Do you want to share a specific example where you started off in PSI? What was your first talk about? How was that received? Obviously, this is a community where I've only met people who give back a lot to you, right, and expect nothing in return. So that's so wonderful. So, want to share your first speaking assignment or speaking experience at PSAI?
That was again given to me by Nikhil and Jankar. So it's a very, very interesting story. So I was coaching people at that time
Mhm.
for LinkedIn, how to use LinkedIn, how to strategize your content on LinkedIn, how to leverage the platform, and how to actually network with professionals on LinkedIn. And I had started a community called LinkedIn Local Hyderabad, which started with 0 members, took it up to 500 members, and the community was thriving at global level 3. That is the time when Nikhil said that why don't you identify your niche? Now, identifying niche is again one big key challenge. So he told me that why don't you speak on something that is close to your heart and that's something that comes naturally to you. I was like, bro, I really don't know what is that. And niche, I have no clue what niche you're talking about. So that's when Jankar chipped in and she's like, Sagar, you speak on LinkedIn. You love LinkedIn. You're so good in LinkedIn. Why don't you talk about LinkedIn as your niche? I was like, okay, that is easy. I can do it. But what do I call my talk as? What do I give it a title? What do I make it as an appealing to people? And that's why she's like, why don't you tell about the power of networking? And that was the title of my first keynote. I gave my first keynote to the community meeting in PSAI, which is a physical meeting, spoke for about 30-35 minutes, and the response that I got was absolutely amazing. Each member enjoyed the talk. They loved the way I presented, the takeaways, and everything. And that I think was my first experience of delivering a keynote to the community as a practice ground. And since then, won the award of commended profile in LinkedIn, coached more than 22,000 people during the COVID, post COVID, pre COVID, and currently coaching 150 CXOs on developing LinkedIn strategies and how to be productive on LinkedIn. So, PSI not only gave me the strength to become a speaker, open up my keynote, but also gave me an opportunity to create business out of it. So that's the strength of networking. That's the strength of people that you surround yourself with, and that's the strength of the community that you work around. And that's my experience.
Wow. Wonderful. Really, really so heartening to hear this from you, Sagar. So, all of those who are watching us, let's give a big round of applause to PSAI, the community that's helping us get better and better every day, and words of wisdom from Sagar. Identify your niche, and this is the place where you will be helped to identify your niche, just like how Sagar was helped by Nikhil and Jankar. So, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Sagar. You know, I'd like to come up and understand, what is a specific example that you would want to talk about, which, when as a speaker, when you spoke about a topic that made, you know, a significant impact on your audience or on your clients. So, just in a few words, if you want to talk about that with us, that'll be really good for us, for our listeners.
That topic was about my life journey because I was born and brought up in Bombay, in the slums of Mumbai. A lot of adversities, lack of resources, limited resources, and 26 July 2005, I remember the floods, getting me out of the floods, and that was a game changer thing for me, and that is what I developed as a talk, how to thrive out of adversities. And I gave that talk to Middlesex University, where I studied in London, and the response that I got was phenomenal. The students there were from across the globe. The session was for 45 minutes. The Q&A extended for around 15-20 minutes. And even after the talk, during the post networking session, people were talking to me, identifying, connecting their journey. So I remember that talk making a huge impact on people, is because when you actually share something which is genuine, close to your heart, and real stories, people actually connect with you. And Kalpesh here has been one of my mentors for leadership. Brigadier Shushil has been my mentor, and I've mentored him for LinkedIn. So it's two ways. And thank you, Kalpesh and Brigadier, for joining us and sharing your experiences.
Awesome, awesome. So, you know, we as speakers always want to, while speaking in itself is a skill, but we are required to, keep upping our game, right? So, how do you kind of enhance your speaking skills just to keep up with the evolving demands of the audience, right? I mean, nowadays you see all of this YouTube, social media, people speaking virtually. So, what do you do to enhance these skills?
Learn, learn, learn. Well, so a very simple example that I could give is that you always need to have a focus, a goal, or a benchmark of what type of a speaker or what quality of a speaker you want to be. Once you have done that benchmarking, you start following those legends and start learning from them, because that's what I call observation. So I've attended conferences and events and speaking engagements where I've heard Robin Sharma, where I've heard Stephen Covey, where I've interacted with Stephen M. R. Covey, where he was recently in Mumbai. I've heard Marshall Goldsmith. I've been with other speakers who have also been inspiring me in terms of Vivek Bindra, and that's where you actually learn observing them, the way they speak, the way they engage with the audience, the way they present themselves. So I believe learning from the giants and observation has been my top thing that I do. Second is experimenting. So I remember a very close example of me engaging with Tom Slightning during the PSS summit in Delhi. During the evening, we were engaging just before his closing keynote on the next day. And he said, "This is going to be my keynote." And we did a dry run in the room sitting together. And Tom said, "How do you like it?" And I said, "Well, it's lovely, but what if you start with a 1 minute pause?" Because his talk was on adaptability and other stuff. And I said, "Why don't you take a pause for a 30-second or a minute and then do blah, da, 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 da. And this could be an experiment and try it." And it ended up with him getting a standing ovation for that thing. So I shared an experiment. He actually believed in me and did that experiment, and that is where I learned from him as well. Because Tom has done more than 4,500 events.
Wow.
I mean, a speaker of that quality, when he discusses with you, when you share your experience, he actually takes it up and implements it the next day on the stage and then gives you a feedback. It's absolutely fascinating to learn from him. Third is about seeking feedback. So whenever I speak, whenever I interact with people, I try to seek feedback about what all areas I can improve, what all areas are good, and I can keep strengthening them. So this is what you keep learning. And in terms of technology, I have invested not only in learning, but I've invested my time and energy to learn about different softwares like OBS, StreamYard, YouTube. I've been on LinkedIn Live. I was one of the first 100 people in India when they were giving the beta licenses for LinkedIn Live. I
Mhm.
think I was one among the few who had the LinkedIn Live licenses and explored how to use StreamYard, go live, do the experiments, even learned, creating my own website, newsletters, email letters. So it's absolutely a journey where you keep continuously learning from other people, observing other people, observing how the world is reacting, and be curious. And that has been my strength, the curiosity of asking questions, the curiosity of being inquisitive and learning more and more. That's absolutely been on top of my mind. I think we have Mr. Dani. He's saying how to become a member of PSAI. Well, sir, we will be sharing the link. I'm sure Amaya will share a link very soon, and you can definitely click on the link from LinkedIn and join us. More than happy and welcoming you on the board.
Hey, thank you for sharing that with us, Sagar. So, the key message I'm taking back from here is learn, learn, learn. Once a wise
Absolutely.
person told me your education stops when you get out of the university, but learning never stops. And you've made that point so very clearly, and you've given us a process as speaker. How is it that we can continuously learn from our experiences? So, thank you, Sagar, for that. So, there is always a process in which a compelling message needs to be sent out, right? Because often as speakers, we see a diverse audience. I speak even to university students, undergrads, postgrads. I speak to corporates, and But the message, when I speak about success, everyone wants to be successful. Often, I have found it slightly difficult, how to adapt to that. Is there really a process that we can adopt to crafting a compelling message for diverse audiences?
Absolutely. There is a framework and there is absolutely a very, very clear process.
Hmm.
The easiest way that I can summarize for people who are in the speaking world or who are just stepping in the speaking world, I'll make it very simple for them to understand. The first thing that you need to do is analyze your audience, which you can do by asking the event organizers certain questions that will make you understand who are going to be in the audiences. Maybe the demographics, the age, the industry, the variation of people that who can come in. Second, ask about the objectives of the organizations that they want to achieve through the event. Or maybe the organizers are organizing a summit and calling a B2C summit. Ask them what are the objectives that they want to achieve out of the talk, because that's going to give you the content, as well as you can also have relatable stories and examples. The next point is you have to have the cultural sensitivity, because sometimes you go and speak in other countries, sometimes you go and speak in other states. There are different sentiments attached with different words. There are different sentiments attached with certain things that you do. uh,
Absolutely.
Last but not the least, it's all about thinking how you can be more creative, interactive, and engaged from the stage. Is because when you have 500, 700 people in front of you, you can't engage everyone. But then, how do you actually interact with everyone and make them feel connected, right? And last but not the least, to create that compelling messages, always seek continuous feedback, because anything that cannot be measured cannot be improved. So if you want to improve your crafting, if you want to improve your messaging, keep seeking feedback from others. I remember when I was doing a webinar very early in my professional speaking days, someone really pointed it out to me on chat that you've used wrong English. Maybe it was who, what, or something, and I missed used it in terms of grammar, and the guy pointed it out, and I acknowledged it, thanked him, and after the webinar, I connected with him on LinkedIn, spoke to him, and had a very, very good conversation. And the best part of that was in the next event when he was in the committee of AOI, which is the Association of Quality for Australia, I was invited as a speaker. So you never know how things will connect, how people will, be available for you. So it's always good to learn, analyze, connect with people, and seek feedback.
Super. Again, something I just learned is acknowledge the feedback, work upon it, connect with the people, reach out, thank them, be grateful for what they're sharing with you, man. And look, that gave you an opportunity to speak. So, to our audiences who are listening to us, watching us on YouTube and other channels as we go through this talk show, this is the key to success, guys. This is what makes you that professional speaker, that person that you really dream to be, as a speaker. So thank you once
And
again,
we
Sagar.
have Praveen Shekhar on the chat saying, nicely put, Sagar. But I could say, uh, Praveen Shekhar has been a strong support in my journey till date. And recently, we also participated in a mastermind all together. So, Praveen, it wouldn't have been possible without you.
Hey, let's all give it up for Praveen. He's on the call with us. So welcome, Praveen, and I'm sure you're listening to us. And thank you so much for being around with us today. So, often we know that there are circumstances which come through which are totally out of our control, right? Unforeseen. You know, can you share an experience with us where you had to adapt to some unforeseen circumstances, and how you successfully manage the situation? It does happen. It's happened with me. I was like looking around here and there, but you know, too new to get adapt at times.
No, I could not I could not say one, but I would share two amazing experiences, because those are completely totally different, but both of them bring a smile to my face when I remember that. So first one is when I was a chair of PSS 2020, if I remember it very correctly, and the plan was absolutely laid. We had 2021, yeah, and the plan was all set. We had all the speakers, we had everything set. The tech team was two people because it was not a very heavy invested tech team we had. So it was me, and one on one side it was Kumar Achinta, and we were managing it from there. And we had three speakers on standby. And in case if somebody did not turn up, we had three speakers on the standby. It happened so that the speaker who was supposed to turn up did not turn up because one of the committee members forgot to follow up. And the time duration and the time zone differences, the speaker thought it's AM and it was actually at PM. So yeah, a hilarious incident. But what happened, or what we did was, immediately all of us in the back end, while we were talking, interacted with each other, decided that okay, one of the person who was going to be a standby speaker was actually hosting the session there, so he is busy. The second person had just finished hosting show. He was like, I'm exhausted, I just need a break to re-energize myself. And I was the only one who was left. Now I was the one who was also the chair, so that had to be the last person taking up as a standby speaker, because the chair cannot come and speak on the event because you are trying to manage the back and forth activities. Nonetheless, 5 minutes, and I'm in front of the screen delivering a talk on LinkedIn productivity and LinkedIn masterclass. And that's how you actually manage unforeseen circumstances as a speaker, that you should be ready to deliver your talk at a notice of 5 minutes. If that is the level of confidence that you have, if that is the level of preparedness that you have, you are a true professional speaker and you can handle any unforeseen circumstances. So that's one part of technical glitch.
Mhm.
The second one is the most interesting, and I'm sure most of us would have faced it. So I was delivering a talk about productivity and I was talking about leaders. And I asked a question that what are the qualities that you need about leaders? And this was recently in November 2022 in London. And one of the graduates just raised his hand and he said, so I think it's ego. Now, I never had that in my list. And how do I answer it? Or what do I talk about it? So took took maybe 2 3 seconds, and I said, brilliant, that's absolutely a very good skill for a leader to have, is because a leader not only helps you to build resilience, but it also helps you to influence other people. The ego will also help you to be on your commitment, but always remember there's a very, very thin line between a growing ego and a small ego. So a leader should always be aware of what type of ego is he having. So thank you for pointing this out for me. And that's how I converted, or changed that situation from an odd pointer to something that everybody laughed and loved at.
That is so awesome, Sagar. That is literally thinking on your feet at its best, man. So, thank you for sharing that experience with us, Sagar. So, you know, one of the things we are always conscious about is engagement with our audience, right? We've got to captivate our audience. So, what are some of the techniques that you use to engage with audiences? How do you captivate them?
Most important, number one is stories. Research about the place, the organization, the country, or the team that you're going to speak on, and try and find relatable stories of that industry, of that organization, of that community, or of that country. That's the most important thing that will create a lot of engagement. Second is use live polls, because people love to share their opinion. And when you create a live poll using Slido or Mentimeter and give them the evidence of what you're talking is available in the room from the audience, the trust factor on what you're trying to say increases tenfold. Third, I use is I sometimes have notes or one pages given to the organizers in advance, which is available on the table for them. And if the talk is about one of my framework, which I call as framework of aim, I make them write a few pointers, something that they will take back something that they will enact and try to create an action plan out of it. Because when you give them practical, easy takeaways and make them commit and right there, you have actually not only inspired them, but you have actually engaged them and made them to take some actions. So this is what I do as a part of my techniques for engaging and creating that interaction, a bond with the audience.
So much of learning so far, Sagar, from you. It's just incredible what this platform offers to all of us. And just selflessly sharing this. This is super awesome. Let's all give it up for PSAI, for the fantastic organization that it is for all of us here in India and all of us who are associated with it. I'm sure we are learning a lot from this organization. So there are times when I have faced this. Okay, people have been very resistant or been skeptic from what I've spoken. Right, I'm sure all of us face that at some point in time. How have you effectively managed to win them over and leave a lasting impression on such people? Any experience that you would want to share on those lines with us?
Going back to the same example, Amaya, which is about a person from an audience throws you a googly or gives you a little bit of resistance, and how you actually turn that resistance. And this is where I remember one of the videos that Gaur Gopal Das shared, that you need to respond rather than react. So if somebody has given you a resistance in the audience, that person will become your brand ambassador if you can actually, you know, explain him, share with him, make him understand and convince him, and that will be the winning point. So never be afraid if you have resistance and skepticism from the audience, because that is your opportunity to share with the audience what your learnings are and how you can actually help them, or how you can actually share your learnings with them, and maybe they have a perspective, respect it, and then give your response. And the minute you do that, you actually win over the audience. So continuing the story, that yes, I managed to convert that and interact with him and tell him about ego and leadership. At the end of the event, he was the only one interacting with me off the stage till the end. Others used to come, take pictures, shook hand, took my book, autograph, but that person was standing right besides me. He came till the end. Even at the dinner, he was with me. He was absolutely in awe the way I tackled him. And even today, after 2 years, 1 year, yeah, it's approximately 1 year, he's still in touch. He still engages on my LinkedIn content, and he's been the brand ambassador, or someone who voices out for me every time. So it's an opportunity. And as I always say, that the minute you see an adversity, be happy, because that's an opportunity that you can bank on.
So no, I truly believe in that. I've been following Dr. Paul Stoles and his work on adversity and how you can, convert day-to-day challenges into day-to-day winning opportunities. So I can truly
Yes.
resonate with what you have been saying, Sagar, on adversity and how it can really be beneficial for us. A while ago you spoke about, in terms of engaging with audience, about storytelling, um, and I know it's something that the world is really getting. Um, I won't say excessively, but catching up on, using storytelling in delivering a powerful and memorable speech. How do you incorporate storytelling techniques into your presentations, Sagar?
It did not come to me naturally, Amaya. So I would say I actually invested in few coaches who actually helped me to create stories and make them very short, compelling, and with the takeaways. So kudos to those coaches who actually helped me to learn storytelling. One of them is a member of PSAI, which is Kumar Achanta. He was in Hyderabad at that time, and he was the one who helped me to form stories and create learnings and takes away from that. Talking about stories, we all know that we've been brought up with stories, be it Tom and Jerry, be it Ramayana, be it Kindle, be it, the mythological stories. We all have been listening to stories. And incorporating stories becomes a very important part in your talk, is because let's say if I talk about investment as a part of my framework, AIM, I sometimes talk about investment. The minute investment comes, people start thinking about money. Now, I want to tell that investment is not money, but about time, energy, and emotions. And that is when I correlate my story of going to London with 180 pounds in my pocket, being a bartender, being a litter picker, and still investing in my learning, investing my energy in building the network there, and not only money, but investing all that with emotions makes a lot of difference. Now, that story, when I elaborate and share it, people actually connect with the message that yes, investing is not only about money, but investing is about time, energy, and emotions. So, storytelling is a craft, and you need to be very, very cautious about where you enter the story. Give the right pauses and let people cherish that story with your talk.
Super. And just carrying on with that point a bit further. So what has been your experience? Is it personal stories that really work well for you, or is it, I use Panchatantra stories. I am a big fan of Panchatantra. So I use Panchatantra stories in my talk. So are these like stories that people have heard in their past but have not been able to resonate with them on a particular topic? So what's worked for you?
I always prefer to have personal stories which I have experienced because I feel that personal stories have authentic content. Personal stories have that conviction when you speak them. And personal stories will always have a perspective that you want to show it to the world. Because what happens in the story that are out in the world, uh, it kind of connects the audience sometimes, but sometimes if the stories they've heard and there's an argument and there's a debate about that story, you invest a lot of time in trying to actually communicate it that way. So
Hmm.
yes, I use most of the time I use stories which are personal experiences, personal observations, and very, very rarely I pick up a story which is somewhere from Panchantatra or overheard on internet or other places. Unless and until it is very, very aligned to what I want to say, personal stories is something I always connect with.
Thank you sharing for sharing all this, Sagar. So we've come to the kind of questions we really wanted to talk through today with you on this talk show. I'm open to taking questions from the audiences. So if there is anyone in the audience who would like to ask something about the productive mindset from the Productivity Explorer, that's Sagar Amlani. We're open for questions now, and I'll relay these questions to Sagar. Just put it out in the comments or in the chat, and then I'm sure Sagar will be answering those for you. But it's been a absolutely delightful journey for the last 40 odd minutes, Sagar, that we've been talking. So much of learning. You're an aspiration for a lot of people. You're an inspiration for definitely for newbies like me who've entered the stage of professional speaking. So awesome, awesome. There's just one thing people are wanting to know. You talk about productivity or product being a productive. Your niche is productivity mindset or how to develop a. So would you want to throw some light on how to develop that mindset?
Yeah, sure. So before we go into how to develop that mindset, let's understand productivity. When we talk about productivity, it is for machines and robots. Why? Because productivity is calculated with efficiency multiplied by effectiveness. But when we talk about a productive mindset, that is what we humans are made for. We have emotions with us, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, sometimes being lazy, and sometimes being super active. So, whenever you're lazy, sad, or you just want to relax, does it mean that you're not productive? Absolutely not. It's about the productive mindset. I'll give you a very short example. Vamshi had been to an office to meet a chairman, a very important person in his life, and very important deal. He had to actually wait for 4 hours because the chairman was occupied with something unplanned. Now, had it been productivity, Vamshi would have been in anxiety, nervousness, irritation that he's wasting 4 hours. And that's exactly what I'm answering Kiran's question about unproductive environment. So here is an unproductive environment where Vamshi has to wait for 4 hours. But here he has a productive mindset. So what he does while he is waiting, he always carries a book that he wants to read. So he reads it for an hour and a two. In the meantime, he remembers that he also has to send WhatsApp messages and reminders to his team to do something. So he does that as a follow up. Third, he also remembers that he also had to call a few people and just talk to them, which he had not spoken in a long time. He does that. What did he do actually? He utilized his time and emotions effectively. And as soon as the time ended, and after 4.5 hours, the chairman came out and apologized and explained him that his son had met with an accident and he was trying to coordinate from the office because his son is living in a different city where he could not travel. Imagine what Vamshi would have behaved if he would have been non-productive, irritated, and thing. Vamshi here smiles and says, "Absolutely no problem, sir. If you want to take time, you still take time. I'm here in your office." He actually closed a deal for a 6 year contract with that guy after the end of 4 hours. Now, that is productive mindset. Now, even if that deal wouldn't have been closed, should Vamshi be upset? No. He read the book, he called people, he completed his work. So, place doesn't matter. It's your mindset that matters. So, all I say to everyone is when you want to develop a productive mindset, three things that you need to do. Critical thinking. Most important is have critical thinking. Second, always have an approach to convert adversities to opportunities. And third, celebrate your small wins. These are the three things that you need to build a productive mindset. And if you want to know more, you can always refer to my Amazon bestseller second book, which is The Key, which shares 26 proven ways to build a productive mindset. And I'm sure you will absolutely enjoy and have a productive mindset and not fall in the rat race of robots and machines and try to focus on productivity.
So that last piece that you mentioned, right? Celebrate small wins. How important is that? We are all wanting to celebrate what I call it as, oh, only once I have won the World Cup, I'll celebrate. That type of a mindset. But how important thing to celebrate those little wins. Takes me back to what happened when India really won the World Cup in 2011. The streets were full when we beat Australia, when we beat Pakistan. That's always a celebration. But that is what we really need to do. And thank you for sharing that point with us, because it's a reminder for all of us here watching this, that celebrate your small wins, guys. It's very, very important. It just propels you to do things differently and different things at the same time. So Sagar, once again, it's been wonderful having you here on the talk show. Just wanted to once again thank the organizers. A lot of people behind the scenes have been working tirelessly to put this together. So I'm going to call out a few names, and I know they are on the call watching us. Brigadier Sushil Basin is been that shining light for PSAI. Thank you so much, sir, for putting this together for us. And Anupriya Chaudhary, she is just unbelievable. She's everywhere, sorting, helping, fixing things, you know, making sure everything works as it is intended to be. Fantastic, fantastic, guys. And Sagar, once again, sincere gratitude from the bottom of my heart for being with us today, sharing your story and sharing your experience as a professional speaker. And I'm sure a lot of us are going to take the inspiration and this aspiration of being Sagar, and you know just see how we take most from this. So with that, we've officially come to the end of our talk today. Thank you everyone for your comments, for your feedback. Um, and with that, we're going to go offline. We have some time. If there are any questions, we'll wait for a minute or so. Otherwise, we're happy to close. Saga, thank you once again for this.
My pleasure, Maya, and you've been a wonderful host.
My pleasure. All right.